And wafers. Well, maybe we'll find them as easily. They'll be all over the place in the twig. Hey, welcome to the channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. Today I'm going to make a video. It's just basically a how-to for new black bear hunters, maybe experienced black bear hunters who might want alternate opinions or ways of doing things. I'm kind of just going to cover the basics of how to set up an area, how to find a good spot, baits you could use, and just the basic systems that I use to consistently harvest black bears. So the first thing I'm going to suggest is get yourself some kind of SUV. It's going to be difficult to do it in a car. If you already have an SUV, a smaller one, fold the back seats down. You're going to get a lot of room for your bait. You're going to need a barrel. You're going to need some kind of containers to transport the thing in or out. So I'm going to kind of show you what I use and what's been successful for me. So what I got here, I've got my barrel and I've got myself a pack. It's a frame pack. It was one of the cheap ones. I believe they're called Tidewees. And Tidewees seeming to become actually, I can't really say anything bad about them. They're a pretty good setup. What I do is I strap my barrel to the frame pack and I use a ratchet strap. I like to put the waistband on just to really support myself. I'm going to snap up the top also. So it's set up like that. I'm able to carry the barrel in. It's about 300 meters off the road, so it's a bit of a hike, but it makes it a lot easier than dragging it on the ground over logs and sticks and that kind of thing. All right, so I'm going to take a walk in and we're going to go check out exactly how I do it. All right, so now you got your stuff dragged into the bush. You got your barrel in here. You might get a little bit of your bait. The first thing you're gonna have to consider is your stand location. So I'll go over a few reasons that stand location is important. The first would be the wind. So if you're hunting bears in the springtime, like I am in Canada, the majority of the time you're gonna get a north wind. So for me, I intentionally position my stand so when the bears are coming in, I'm in a position where they're not getting downwind to me as easily. I've kind of mapped out in this same spot. I've been using the same spot for a few years now. I have a general idea of which way they come in and out. You're gonna have to use that to your advantage. I prefer to use large spruce tree. So when I set up my ladder stand in the next video, you'll see my ladder stand will go up to about 15 feet, 16 feet. About 20 yards off the bait. I'm using compound bow, so confidently I know I can shoot to about 40 yards and keep it in a decent 3-4 inch circle with a broadhead, but I like to get them about 20 yards in. It gives me an opportunity to really get a look at the bear, see if it's a male or female, get really close up on them and just make a really good shot at the end of the day. So that is important. The kind of tree is also important. Now the reason I say the kind of tree is important is because you want it to be able to support your weight. I know it's a no-brainer, but if you're new to this kind of thing or you're new to hunting in general, you might think that that 6-inch poplar or 8-inch poplar seems like a good bet, but when the wind starts howling and you're up there, you're going to see real quickly why it's not a good bet. So this tree itself probably goes to 16 to 18 inches. It's actually the biggest spruce tree in the area, and that's kind of why I picked it. Just kind of taking off the little bits of limbs. Most of them are dead as it is anyway, this low down. Take them off so it makes it a bit easier for me to get up there, and then when I haul my bow and gear up and down, I'm not getting it caught all over the branches and that kind of thing. So another reason your stand location is going to be important is the time of day you're hunting. If you plan on hunting the mornings, I don't recommend having your stand facing the east. There's a few reasons. You're going to have the sun in your eyes. You're going to be getting baked by the May and June sun as it gets over the tree line. It's going to make for a lot more of an uncomfortable sit, and you're not going to be able to see as well, and you're going to find yourself constantly going like this or having to put shades on, adding glare to whatever you're doing. Bears can't see that well in my opinion, but they can definitely see colors and they definitely pick up on reflective things, so that's something else to keep in mind. So I'm going to take a walk back out of the bush and we're going to start hauling in some bait, and I'm going to go over a few more things that I think are important just to help you to be a little bit more successful. So for me, when it comes to the sugary foods, I like the sugary foods early on, but once I've established that the bears are coming, that's kind of when I switch it up. I'll go with the corn, oats, granola, things that are not so sugary, because I've heard a lot of other guys say it and I agree with it. Bears aren't the same as you or me, but they are similar to humans. You can sugar them up too much. So you get to a point where, say for yourself, if you're eating donuts every single day, well, you're gonna get sick of eating donuts pretty quick. You're gonna be sugared up and you're gonna feel like shit. And the bears are very similar in that sense, I find. Once you get them on the sugar so much, they don't want to keep having sugar. So you gotta mix it up. Hit them with a bit of grain, give them some carbs, give them some other things. If you got some meats and that kind of stuff that's not too spoiled, I would give them that. You could give them spoiled meat, like I did 2 years ago. The first setup I did of the year, I actually had a freezer go out, and it had deer in it, it had ducks, it had geese, and I didn't realize the freezer was out for about a week or two until I opened it to take out some ground meat, and was pretty much knocked out by the smell because it was just rancid meat. So I used the rancid meat. It really pulled them in off the get-go, but again, it's probably due to the fact they didn't have any other food sources. So if given the choice, I mean, a lot of times they're going to avoid the rancid meats, they're going to avoid the rotten stuff, especially if you're presenting them with something good like fresh smelling cookie dough or whatever you might use. So these are an idea of what I'm using for the original bait setup. They're Christie's cookies. I guess they're from the factory. They're just pre-made cookies. They haven't been baked yet or anything like that. We got about a box of these. I've got a box of the Starbucks caramel. This is manufactured for Starbucks, Utah. So I'm going to use that caramel. I'm going to spread it on the trees. I'm going to spread it on the top of the pail. I'm going to really give him a little bit of incentive to come in and eat. And then I've got here some kind of Alpine orange wafers. So there's some kind of wafer. I don't really know what they're for. And then I got a 50-pound bag of animal crackers. So these are all just animal crackers. And you could get them. I know there's a lot of sources even in the States, if you're in the States or if you're in Canada. I personally buy them from Daryl at DOA. Been dealing with him for a few years now. He's been a really good guy to deal with. He's got really good baits and probably the best prices in my opinion. So we're gonna head in and we're gonna stock up these baits. Frame pack's all loaded up. I got about I'm gonna guess it's about a 50 pounds worth of cookies and those wafers, and I'm gonna drag them in. So this is the second trip into the bush. My first one I brought in the barrel and whatever I could fit in there without it being too heavy. Not looking to hurt myself or overexert. So if I have to make 3-4 trips in, personally what I do is I take the heaviest stuff in first, and then it makes the last loads a heck of a lot easier and seems to be a little bit more enjoyable that way than saving the best for last. The best would be the lightest. So we'll see you in there. So when I'm setting up my barrel, the way I personally like to do it is I have about a 10-inch by 8-inch hole here, about knee high, and then I've got a handful of small holes. The smaller holes, maybe 1.5-inch holes that I cut with a hole saw. That kind of allows the bears to lick at it and get to the bottom of the barrel. So guys will say, well, you shouldn't have a hole that big, the bear will get in there, gorge himself. That's kind of the idea. Personally, what I do is I attach my barrel like a bike block, something like that. I drill 2 holes through it. You can see they've kind of stretched it out over time, but I put a bike lock there. I drill a lag bolt into the tree. I do this to dead trees because I don't really like wrecking trees for no reason. Just start drilling enough holes in them that it doesn't work out for them. And I'll put my carabiner, clevis, whatever you want to call it, like this. So it allows the bears to knock the barrel over. They're going to end up tipping it over, but they won't be able to tip it over all the way. So they won't be able to get in all the way. So it's going to force them to maybe, the barrel will get on its side. The bear's going to lay there. He's going to scratch at it. These holes here, as you can see, they're going to allow the bear to maybe lick in there, get a sniff. Smaller things will go in there, mice or shrews or that kind of stuff. But by having it hooked up like this on the tree, it really stops them from being able to just dump the whole pail. It makes them work for it a little bit more, and that's really what you want. You want to keep them coming back. You don't want them getting totally a free meal. You want them to work for it, because especially when you start getting more bears on it, if you get 3-4 bigger bears in a one night period, they're going to clean you out. And when they clean you out, when the food stops, they'll stop coming back. And especially if you got other guys hunting in the area, even within a few miles, they're going to go where the food is, and that's just the bottom line. Now I'm going to fill up the barrels. So I'll try to stagger them a little bit. The cookies come in different floats, different amounts of cookies. And I mean, the filling the barrel part's pretty straightforward. I like to layer it out a little bit. I don't like to just have it cookies, oats, wafers, whatever it is. I'll layer it out a little bit so they're constantly going in there getting different tastes and different flavors. If you find a method that works, all the better. But your best bet is to make it so they can get the bait, but they have to work for the bait. They are extremely smart. I'd be convinced that if you put candy and food inside of a Rubik's Cube, a bear could probably figure it out. And if not by intelligence, just by sheer force. Rain and wafers. They'll maybe be able to find them as easily, but they'll be all over the place in the twigs. So you're gonna have the bears coming back, and at least they're gonna be preoccupied. They're gonna hang out in the area a lot longer and linger picking up. And always remember, take your trash out. Bears don't deserve to be eating trash. You don't deserve to be littering the environment. And the other thing, which is the least important of the two, is you're gonna bring attention to yourself, because you start seeing trash around. You're going to invite other people to come mess with your stuff. Potentially invite a fine upon yourself if you got a conservation or a DNR or that kind of thing. And I mean, it's all part of being a good outdoorsman or person, whatever you want to call it now. Just clean up a little bit of your mess. Now we're headed back with the trash. Walk back. I'm going to get my last load of wafers. Set up my, what was it? You So Good trail camera. It's like an Amazon camera, but the Amazon cameras have really come a long way, and I'm gonna wait till the baits really start hitting before I set up my cell cam. Last load. It's a 50-pound sack of animal crackers. They're Kirkland signatures, but I got the 50 pounds. I think it's $20 for a bag because they're expired. So a pretty good bang for your buck. It's not too sugary. It's kind of right in the middle, and I like to mix that in just to keep them coming back for more. Now for the Starbucks caramel. I'm guessing this stuff is just out of date from Starbucks, and that's how they get it so cheap. I'm going to dump at least one tube into my baits, and I'll come back in a bit. I'm going to add my my wafer cookies. So I'll spray it all on the insides of the barrel too. The sun will hit it, it will start to melt off, but get that goo in there. Really get the goo on the bear's paws, because when he leaves, he's going to allow other bears to stink up the area. It's going to let basically a sweet trail back to the bait. So now I want to add one more. It's Kirkland signature animal crackers. It's a 50-pound bag, and it sounds like a lot, but if you're new to this, you know, you're going to find out real quick that these bears will go through this, and if you get a big bear in here, he's going to clean this out in under 24 hours, if not just in one sitting. So I'll dump her in. Again, I'll hit it with a little bit more of the caramel. If you can't get caramel, maybe you don't have access, lucky to have access to bait the same way that I do, but I think in most of these provinces and states, you're going to find somebody selling rejected foods or out-of-date foods. And then I'll just give him some more caramel on the top. It just makes it so his paw is going to get real gooey. And then some more. A little bit on the ground, just to get them entice them a little bit extra. Same with the stuff on the ground. I'm gonna dump a little bit of sugar on top of it so he gets it in his paws. Once you got your barrel, clamp your lid down, get her secured. I just run like a cap screw style bolt and a nut on the bottom just to keep them from getting your barrel open, because it's the last thing you need. It should be safe because I haven't found a bear yet that can undo a bolt and the nut. So then for the final touch. So throughout the year, whenever I'm cooking and frying stuff up in the pan, all the leftover grease and oil, butter, whatever it is from cooking ground beef, ground anything, and I run any of the runoff oils that I'm not going to put in my dish or eat, I save them in jars and put them in the fridge. And this stuff smells foul, but in a good way, like better than dirty deep fryer grease. Rub your grease on the trees if you have to. You get the stink around. Normally I would bring a pair of gloves, but between everything else I got going on right now, doing renos and stuff at my house, I didn't end up having time to remember to bring a pair of rubber gloves. I've only got my farmer work gloves, and I don't really want to get them covered with grease in case I got to do something else with them. That's the first can. For your tree stands, your shooting lanes, a little different than white-tailed deer. You're not going to notice most predictable behavior out of a bear. A bear could show up from anywhere. So I would recommend clearing your shot lanes, at least so you have 70% of your viewing range is able to be shooting from, right? So, you know, for example, I know there's a good chance that these bears are going to come in through this clearing. It gives me a window of time to anticipate them coming in. So, you know, if they basically walk in anywhere, I position the barrel in this particular setup. My barrel's positioned like this. I know if a bear's coming, the bear's going to be coming like this from the side. A lot of these trees and branches I put around, I've intentionally stuck those trees and branches here. They're deadfall, but I've moved them. And I've moved them in these locations to funnel the bear in, as opposed to just letting him advance in from wherever he wants. So, you know, I've moved this deadfall piece here. I know they're going to cut through here, but the odds of them cutting through here with all the shit in the way is a lot less likely. The majority of the time what happens is they round this point, they come in, they set up. You want to give yourself a broadside shot on a bear if possible. Once he gets comfortable, tree stands 20 yards away that way, and I get a clear shot. And that's exactly how I got the one last year. Got a big female there on the last weekend of the season. The week before, I missed a large male because I nicked a branch that was across and shot the arrow down about 4 inches beneath his chest, and he never came back and he took off. But so my target for this year is a large red colored cinnamon bear. He's not really a cinnamon bear, he's more almost a brown bear coloration. I've seen him in the last 3 years. Haven't encountered him in person, had him on the camera. He shows up in the same 3-day window, so I'm really trying to dial it in to get that bear. It's a nice 400 or 500 pound bear. He's got a lot of meat on him and a really nice coat. So I set up the You So Good. It's a cheap Amazon camera. I think they're 59 bucks. To be honest, it's actually a really good camera. I did set it up pretty close to the bait. I say about 10 yards off the bait. My tree stand will be right there. But I mean, I do recommend putting it in a case or wrapping barbed wire or something like that, because bears are pretty curious. They will try to mess with it. They might chew on it or take it off. I've yet to lose one, but I do have a few of them with bite marks and they've been chewed up pretty good. But for the first few weeks, I'll leave this up. When I get out to bringing out my cutty backs, my cell cam, then, you know, I'll put those ones in cages. But I mean, for what it is, it's a $50 camera, not a lot of money, not these days anyway. So it's kind of how I'll set it up. It's really good, just pretty versatile, cheap little camera. So the habitat I like to use is I try to find points that are the high dry spots in between swamps, because bears really rely on swamps for water. There's a lot of food and vegetation. They do like beavers. So they kind of rely on these high dry spots that are located in between water sources. So especially when you're sugaring them up, the odds of them wanting water throughout the day and finding a hot dry spot to lay down are pretty good. So I try to personally find locations that are close to water. If you can find an area It's almost a peninsula. Like it's surrounded on swamp from both sides. Like where I am, there's a swamp on both sides, and it's just a forestry road, a public access, but the land kind of bottlenecks in. I've been using this spot for, well, I don't know, probably almost coming up on 20 years at this point, for either trapping pine martens, wolves, deer, bear. The deer seem to move out of here because there's been a lot of logging in the area, and it's a lot easier for them to commute through the clear cuts and stuff. So you might see the odd deer come in and out, but as far as having trail cameras set up here for months on end, I've never really noticed any kind of deer hanging out. Nothing to the point where it's worth my time to hang a stand anyway. And so there's a lot of deadfall right here. What I do recommend is in the first 50-60 yards of the trail, I know I talked a lot about cutting down the overgrow and the deadfall to make it easier getting in and out, but to deter people from coming into your spot, if you're worried about them coming in, taking your cameras or taking your stand and that kind of stuff, or just walking around, it could be people picking mushrooms or anything they do in the springtime, I leave the first 50 yards pretty grown over. Like, I won't clear out this kind of stuff, all these bigger chunks of trees. I'll leave it. I want to make it as uninviting as possible for other people for multiple reasons. They might come in, take your stuff. They might come in before you next season and think, hey, that's a good spot to set up a tree stand. So just in general, when it comes to thieves or anything like that, the harder you make it for someone to take your stuff, the less likely they will be to take it. It's sort of like you got a lock on your door. Well, you also got an alarm. And then you got, I don't know, German Shepherd or Rottweiler, Dogo or something like that, like I have. And the odds of someone wanting to test all three of those security barriers, pretty much slim to none. So yeah, the first, I'm back to the truck or car now. So, you know, the first 60 some meters, I don't even want it to look like it's a trail in there. I want it to look like maybe it's a deer trail at most. And then it's just going to deter these people from coming in and just screwing up what you're doing. You can treat this as a workout. So some people say to me like, wow, you really work hard. There's no way I do all that. And you can get closer to the road. Why wouldn't you use a quad? And I mean, they are right. But to be fair, some of these people couldn't drag an animal much more than 50 feet without going into cardiac arrest. So, I mean, you're doing it to get healthy food, healthy meat, enjoying the outdoors. You may as well try to keep your body in physical condition, because if you plan on doing it for a long time, it's going to get a lot harder the worse physical shape you're in. So you can always treat it as a workout at the very least. So I'm also going to talk a little bit about deer. I recommend wearing a pair of gloves, and the reason for that is it minimizes the scent. Like I said before, you're not going to completely fool them, but your best bet is to keep your scent down to a minimum, especially when you start getting them hitting your baits on a regular basis. When the bears become patentable later into the season, I find in the early season, you're going to get bears coming and going. They're just catching the scent. They might not hang around. You might only see them 2-3 nights in a row. They might just rage or pale and keep it moving. But as you get closer into the black bear rut, when they really start breeding, the females go into heat, you're going to start seeing the same bears night after night, day after day, becoming semi-patternable. I do recommend wearing gloves for another reason. There's a lot of poison ivies, poison oaks, poison sumac, depending on where you live. And you're going to end up getting that on your hands. You're going to end up going to take a whiz. And don't ask me how I know, but a couple days later, you're going to realize why the gloves were so important. So I'm just going to leave it at that, but I think you can figure it out for yourself. Last piece of advice, bring Sunlight dish soap in a water bottle. Wash yourself off, wash your hands, wipe off your face, anywhere you think you might have touched with your fingers. Because if you think you're safe from the poison ivy oils and stuff just because you wore gloves, probably not. That oil sticks around for a long time. Same with poison sumac. And I know someone might say, well, it's not even green out there. There's no vegetation up. The roots have poison ivy oils on them, and anything you touch, tree branches, all that kind of stuff, there's a good chance they have it on them. And unless you feel like being itchy, going to the doctor, I highly recommend it.